while we were listening to the sounds before, you've heard that each syllable has been pronounced in 4 different tones. Now, let me show you some graphic designs about these tones. Tone number 1 is high and even. Tone number 2 is rising. Tone number 3 is falling and rising. And tone number 4 is falling. When you pronounce these tones quickly, especially tone number 3 just turns into a deep sound. The other 3 tones are more or less the same as when you pronounce them very slowly. So this is what you want to learn. So just remember, tone 3 is basically deep. Now you might think this is very complicated, that a different tone means something different and that you are not used to it, but actually every one of us hears these tones. It's just a matter of getting used to it. Now when you learn the tones, please read this here carefully. And then start to overemphasize the tones first. And then you go back into the pronunciation part and listen to the tones carefully. At the same time, you pronounce them in all 4 different tones. At the beginning this seems very strange, yet you will see you will get used to it quite quickly. Just listen here, and if you are confused or if you think you don't hear it, read these explanations here. I give you here an explanation to every tone, and we start with something which you know already. So for example, tone number 2 is like a motorcycle starting to drive. So you hear that. You are used to that. When you hear a motorcycle, you hear that this is something different than this is not a motorcycle. So you are used to that. You are able to hear these differences. You are just not used to listen to it when someone is speaking. So that's why we have made these explanations here. Look at them. When we listened to the syllables before, you heard that each syllable is pronounced 4 times. They were pronounced in the 4 different tones which there are in Chinese. And here you find an explanation to these 4 tones. And there is a 5th tone, which is a non-tone, which basically adapts itself to the tone before or after it. But forget that at the moment. Let's have a look at this. Tone 1 is high. It's like a singer singing high. Ah, that's tone 1. Tone number 2 is rising. You might not hear that easily. Ah, this is going up. It's like a motorcycle starting at the red light. Tone number 3 is falling and rising. So basically, however, when tone number 3 is pronounced quickly, it's basically just a deep sound. So, then tone number 4 is falling. It's like if someone hits you and you say, ah, ah. This is a falling sound. So you hear the difference. When I ask you, is this the same? And ah, you say immediately, no, that's something different. So you hear the difference, but you are not used to hear that yet when someone is speaking. However, when you read this explanation here, and when you overemphasize the tones in the beginning, and when you listen to all the tones which you can find here in the pronunciation part, you will start to get used to this, and you will be surprised that suddenly you start to speak in the correct tone and Chinese understand you wonderfully. So now you have learned how to learn the different Pinyin sounds according to graphic designs and explanations. And you have seen that there are different ways of writing the same Pinyin sound, which you find here. And you have got a little introduction into the 4 different tones in Chinese. And now I would like you to tell you why we chose these colors. So tone 1 is high and even, like the sun rays in the sky. Tone 2 is rising, just as a plant is always growing upwards. Tone 3, we chose red, like a fire on the floor. And tone 4 is falling like a raindrop falling, or like water always wanting to go downwards. And when you look at our website, you'll find that all characters have a certain color, and that's the color of the tone. So this character has tone 3, that's why it is red. So while you learn these characters, you learn, or you start to remember, the color too. And when you're not sure of the tone anymore, you might remember the color, which tells you the tone. So this makes it more easy to remember the tones, which are very confusing for us Westerners in the beginning. So that's all what you get out of the Chinese pronunciation section.